All right, and we are back. Sorry about the difficulties, but we've got our mic up and running again. So let's just dive back into our outline for today's stream. The first thing we wanted to touch on today was the progress in our latest build. So today, the 5th version of the Alpha Prime release is rolling out. If you're on our early access program, you should be receiving that in the next few hours. If you're not, you really ought to be. Head on over to konsuifighter.com/early and you can sign up to get into our early access program, which will give you a discount on the release version of the game, our pre-release builds, and access to updates as we continue to develop the game. Included in this release, we have some updates to the game soundtrack. So we've kind of mentioned it on our social media channels. But we are now in the phase where we're incorporating more of the in-game stage tracks into the build. So look forward to Hitan and Itami's themes in this build. We've also got some menu and interface updates. Jas has been putting together some brushed titles for the menu and the character names throughout the game, so check that out. And we also have just a general gameplay improvement of revising our collision model for how we handle character collisions. So it's less springy, a little more responsive for gameplay. So check it out. Let us know what you think. We look forward to pushing some more updates to you in the coming weeks. Another thing we wanted to touch on was progress for our network mode. So I'll let Shauna speak to that a little bit, but we've been playing with some new things, right?
Yeah. We're trying to use Google's constantly kind of updating the Android stuff, and it's nice because a lot of it's advancing forward. So they've had this idea a while back where you could have direct connections between phones without some type of hotspot in between. We're trying to use this new API that will hopefully make it easier to find people around you. That if you want to start up a match with friends, it should just automatically connect. We're still working on that, but it's going pretty good so far, I think.
We're getting pretty close to the actual core gameplay being testable. We've hashed out the current game plan for the different network interactions we're going to have.
Yep.
So working on framing those out.
It's hard. There's a lot of little nuance to getting that to work consistently in a low latency. Yep.
So, we've touched on it before, but the full local multiplayer mode is planned for our Beta Prime release. So we're still trucking along pretty good for that, and we'll keep updating on that aspect as we go.
Yep.
So we mentioned it, although the mic was probably not working, but Jas is here. He's with us. He's in town today. For those who don't know Jas, he's the lead artist for Konsui Fighter, and he's done pretty much all the artwork for the game. So let's just kick it off. Jas, where have you been? What have you been up to?
I have been in the mountains deep in China.
Yeah.
Studying with monks.
No, I have been working in China for about 3 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Teaching English.
Teaching English. It's not a highly respectable job, but it gets me to that country. I really love China.
Mm-hmm.
It's been one of my dreams to live and work there. And I have been able to do it.
Yeah.
It's a cool place.
Yeah. What is the most unusual thing you have seen over there? Now, I got your impressions on this a little while back. I don't know if it's changed, but...
Do you want like a positive impression or a negative?
Positive's fine.
Just say positive. I have to think about positive.
Oh, no. You made it hard.
It's like for foreign guests in their country, compared to America, like foreign guests in China can be treated like royalty almost. Like they really want to make a good impression for foreign guests. And, if you're in trouble, they'll go out of your way to help you and try to make you feel like you're a part of their family and stuff. This could be like people you know, or it could be strangers. You see you're struggling with something. And
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
We've got some other fun stories, but nothing too crazy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so you've been busy at work on another side project lately. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, I'm always having side projects,
Mhm.
and I think I started out kind of as a comic artist. This was like years ago, maybe when I was 18,
Mm-hmm.
and I was always making comics for. I don't know if you remember Tokyo Pop.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tokyo Pop. You know, some people love Tokyo Pop, some people hate it, but regardless, they were holding contests for American and I think Canadian artists to make their own comics
Mhm.
and submit it to competitions. I did that for a number of years. I always lost, but
Still worth trying.
there's one time I got through to the second round, you know, so it was up for online vote,
Mhm.
and it was the first time I had like a lot of people send criticism and support,
Mhm.
so that was cool.
Nice.
But Tokyo Pop is kind of defunct now,
Hmm.
or I don't know their situation, but
Mhm.
they don't publish like they used to. I've been searching for other competitions,
Mhm.
right? And there's one competition I really like recently called the Silent Manga Award. And this is from Japan. I don't remember the company necessarily,
Mhm.
but their goal is to get entries from international artists to get them judged by Japanese comic veterans,
Right.
you know, comic making veterans. And the twist about their contest is you cannot use dialogue.
Mhm.
It's silent, right? And so I thought, oh, this is really good. And it has to be short, you know, so I can work around my busy concert fighter schedule.
Yep.
Sure.
And so I've been working on that. And I had tried it a couple of times before, and just my stories weren't working out. And so I missed a couple contests. But this one, I just decided to use my students in China as my subject,
Mhm.
you know, and so I made a really cute comic about my students learning English, and turned out pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that.
Getting close, aren't you?
Really close
Yeah.
to finishing.
Yeah.
I really hope that when the voting comes, I can count on you guys for the support.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
Mhm.
So, as far as the art for Konsui Fighter
Yes.
goes, you're pretty close to being done with the
Basically,
project at
yeah.
this
Yeah.
point. So, Jazz is, and it's a lot of work that Jazz has put into this.
Oh, yeah.
But we're kind of at the phase now where a lot of what we're doing with Jazz is kind of filling in, areas of the story that we want to expand on a little bit, and just refining the characters so they're really polished for the final release. You want to show off a little bit of some of the stuff that you've been working on?
Sure. What should I start with? Do you want to start with frames, or do you want to start with story?
Yeah, let's look at frames first.
Okay.
So, we've mentioned that the beta preview build, we're going to have Itami and Shinrao both featured.
Mhm.
So let's take a look at some of their
You want to do a
frames.
Tommy?
Sure.
Tommy, maybe. Let's do it nice. Let's do his blade swipe.
Sure.
Yeah, Tommy was special because I had a specific vision about his chains,
Mhm.
you know, and I didn't. How can I say? We have color artists, right?
Mhm.
And Shane, you were a color artist for a while.
For portion of characters,
right?
yeah.
And we have two others, Leah
Yeah.
and Michelle.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And just for the textures on Itami, I decided to do it myself,
Mhm.
so it wasn't too much workload for them.
Mhm.
So he's a little bit different, but basically, I will always start with a pencil drawing like this, right? And this is on paper. And then we'll scan those in, right, to include the shading, right? And And then for this particular one, there's an overlay of the chains, right? And probably if I was a better artist, I would mask these, but I just erased them to, show it's along the body. And then the coolest part about Tommy is he's got, this big board on his back with flames shooting out of it.
Yeah.
And so I stylized some fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So from this PSD file, we'll send it to the color artists, and they will color in the skin and the clothes and the hair and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if I have is finished. What was that, the blade swipe?
Yeah.
Something like that. This is like blown up, so it's gonna look
This is the
blurry.
final output at lower resolution.
Real sprite will be kind of small,
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's for the engine.
Yep.
So when it comes together, it looks pretty.
Yeah. Then when you animate it.
Yeah, then you animate it.
Yep.
So, of my system.
Nice.
If you have any particular questions about animation or our process, let us know in the chat section. I'll try to answer any questions.
Yep.
Because I was not professionally trained in animation. I learned it all by basically like watching Dragon Ball Z, and I had VHS, and I would like skip frame by frame,
Mm-hmm.
and just sometimes I would just copy it, and that's how I learned how movement works, for TV or for animation.
Yeah.
And then I went to school professionally for motion design,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I learned some of the more professional techniques, just through After Effects and stuff. Not really about hand-drawn animation.
Mm-hmm.
Just what the eye can see, what it cannot see, what you can cheat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sometimes it looks better to cheat. So
Yeah. A lot of our Konsui Fighter frames are a little bit of a low frame rate, but we do that purposely because fighting games that have too many frames will get kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I remember like Skullgirls.
Mm-hmm.
We always talked about Skullgirls, and super beautiful.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like one of the most amazing hand-drawn sprites. But I was noticing there was a lot of frames in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched one of the
GDC talks.
GDC talks.
Yeah, that I sent you.
And one of the lead animators or whatever, she admitted that she did too many.
Yeah.
And in fact, after doing so many, they had to cut down.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the challenges in creating a game like this, but honestly, really any game where you're featuring rich animation, it's balancing the artistic side with the game mechanic side, right? Even just for things like frame timings. I know we had a lot of time where we would meet up to review frame timing because we were trying to find a good medium between the flow of the animation, but also the gameplay behind that and the pace for gameplay. So it can be a challenging task to balance that and have it, represented well in games. So, but I think we've done a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Like this is Yuraku, and this is her stance. Her stance is only 3 frames. But that's all you need.
Yeah.
And we referenced a lot from a lot of different games.
Yeah.
For me personally, I referenced a lot from the King of Fighters.
Yeah.
Yep.
The old King of Fighters, and it's not a lot of frames.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of interesting you mentioned that. I don't know that we've kind of talked about that in a while, but I would say in some respects, Konsui Fighter is kind of an homage to many popular fighting game series. We spent a lot of time when building the mechanics in reviewing the systems of any popular series. Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, BlazBlue, Guilty Gear. I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
King of Fighters is actually probably a fairly decent one that we pulled a lot of mechanic ideas from. And yeah, our goal from the beginning has been to build core fighting game experience from the ground up with mobile in mind. Because at least at the time we've done it, but I still would say maybe not entirely currently, like really hasn't been that kind of experience. We've either seen games that oversimplify and you're not really getting a core fighting game experience, or games that are just trying to port a console-based experience without really taking the mobile setting into consideration.
Right.
So, I think we've done a pretty hard job of pulling what makes a core fighting game into the fold with creating this kind of experience. So, and even just from the direction for the artwork and many aspects of the game have kind of played a role in that.
Yeah, and I think the audience will be able to see like our style is very sketchy, and this was kind of at Shane's direction, and in the beginning I didn't quite understand what the final output would be, but I just kept with it, and in the end I think it's really, really pretty.
Yeah.
Because normally I would do a frame like this in ink, right? No pencils and stuff. But the process of the coloring gives it like a nice softer textury, like sketchy look. So.
And it kind of goes with that like dreamy style that we kind of have to the appearance a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, like the watercolor on some of the stages and things.
Right.
Yeah.
And especially in like, you'll see the story art when that starts coming out. It's pretty sketchy, but that's what we wanted, and it contributes to the theme. Yeah.
It's nice because it's different than the usual, like either pixelated art, which is kind of an homage to old school graphics, or like the super sharp stuff like Skullgirl.
Sure.
So yeah, something different. Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Right.
Should I pull up one of the stages?
Sure. Yeah. Let's take a look at it.
Can see how those are put together.
Yeah. The stages are really pretty, and I'm not even like a good background artist. Who should we do?
Let's see. Who have we not? Or I guess what's one of your
rice fields were really
favorites?
The rice field?
Yeah, that was
I
pretty
think
recent.
Yasu's. Let's do the big version. Hope for the best. So Yasu's, I think, is newly in the build.
Yes.
One of the recent builds. So if you pick up that build, you can see this one, and then also Shinrao. This one was kind of cool because, what were you saying, of all the stages, this is the most like painterly?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's got more of like a grit to the texture, and to me it's kind of like an earthy. It emits that earthy kind of mood to it, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
In a way, it's softer. Yeah.
Yasu is a farmer, right? Yeah, she's a farmer. So her stages needed to show that. Now you can see a ton of frames, or a ton of layers.
Yeah, yep.
A lot of these are repeat, like the flag. The flag I chose not to do a painterly style because your characters are going to be in this foreground. Let me see that. Yeah. So if your characters are going to be in the foreground and they have more of a flat coloring style, I wanted to use the flag as a way to be an in-between between them and the background. How the flag is. And it animates. The stage is very windy, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. So like you'll see the grass kind of animate in the background.
Yeah, the grass is kind of the cool part. I don't know which grass this is. Corn.
Nice.
And again, this is like just what I always see in anime. Is there's like a streak that goes along a field, and that may or may not be in reality, but it's a way
is.
to
I've seen
show.
Yeah. You have to go from a good distance like that. Yeah, you will see like waves that will change reflectivity.
I guess driving around the Midwest, there's a lot of cornfields.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. But yeah. And then, so we have different layers. There's usually 3 layers, right?
Yeah, it varies by stage,
Yeah.
but yeah, we use parallax scrolling, so each physical layer scrolls at a different rate, so you get the illusion of depth.
Yeah.
Which is pretty common.
This is the bottom layer.
Yep. Like the buildings will be one layer, and then the background will be another.
Yeah, we got some bushes. There's a box? Oh, there's a box.
There's a box.
Here's the house, right?
Oh, nice.
That's a cute little house, I thought.
Mm-hmm. Just blew up the house.
I remember how.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's one layer and this is one. We have, 4 in this.
Oh, the clouds are separate.
Yeah.
And this is a lot of these textures I have used for years. I painted ages ago. I just made my own textures and I've been reusing them. One of them.
Nice.
I do like these mountains.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these are all hand painted.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So how long does it take you to do like this stage, for example?
I can't quite remember. This one was complicated because it had more animation than others. I want to say simple things like the mountains were pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, don't know if you can see, but this mountain is just me taking the brush and just doing this.
Sure.
And then in Photoshop, I cut out the shapes.
Sure. It works.
I really like that kind of random happenstance.
Yeah.
Like everything just came together and looks like a mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'd say maybe like a good 2 to 3 days.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
For a stage.
Yep.
Depends.
Yeah.
Depends.
Yeah. Some might have more cleanup.
I mean,
than
I did
others.
throw you that thing for the last day.
For the last stage, that one is special.
Yep.
That one took a good like 3 weeks or something.
Being a last stage, it better be special.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think overall, so we still have that one stage, and was there much else left for him to do, or there's some touch-ups like we mentioned, but it's getting pretty close.
Yeah, I think at this point it's really just kind of the adjustments, which I think we've worked through a lot of the character adjustments at this point. Story.
We might have some birds, but that should be quick.
Yeah.
Oh, birds.
Oh, yeah. Have we talked about that yet?
I don't know if we mentioned the birds.
So we'll talk about the birds a little bit.
Okay, should I pull up the birds?
Sure. So Hitan has kind of evolved a little bit over the course of development.
Fun fact: she was one of the first characters drawn.
Yes, yeah. Hitan was one of the first characters that we had drawn, but we always had this idea that Hitan would have projectiles of birds that she could use, and when we got the projectile system up and running and started playing around with it, we kind of had a little bit of a difficult time getting the flow of the bird projectiles to feel right and look right. Like, they would kind of come into the stage a certain way and leave, and
they kind of swooped in at an
angle.
Yeah,
and it felt a little kind of funky, and it was hard to like plan your hits accordingly. And it really kind of devolved the route of like, well, it would be great if the birds were coming from Hitan. Like, really, you want the origin of your attack to be your character, so you have a little more sense of where that's coming from. And so that thought just kind of progressed into like, well, it would look kind of weird if a bird just came out of Hitan,
she's gonna
shoot a bird. So how can we make that look more natural? Well, part of Hitan's character is that she has this ability that lets her kind of communicate with birds, and she has a cluster of birds that's with her, and so we thought, well, let's put that cluster in the game. So our plans for Hitan are to kind of start shifting her character over to having a pool of birds that is following behind her character throughout gameplay. And they are a resource. They're a resource you must manage to access her projectile attacks.
Like this?
Yep.
Kind of like
Yeah. So Sean has actually done some AI in the past for bird flocking algorithms.
Yeah.
He's implemented that for some different things. I most notably, I remember you had like an Android background.
It was like butterflies that would kind of fly around. If you put your finger there, they'd land and start flapping their wings slowly.
Yeah.
It's kind of cute.
Yeah. So Sean's actually going to be using that knowledge to build the logic for Hitan's birds. And yeah, they're going to be a limited resource. So you'll have different projectile attacks you can use from that pool, but they have kind of a fixed cooldown before they come back on screen and rejoin the pool.
Mm-hmm.
So, on top of your standard attacks, you still have several melee attacks available with Hitan. But to access those, you have to manage that pool efficiently, and it's kind of an interesting angle that we came up with for her character.
Yeah.
So
it should be nice. It'll add a lot of nice variety to when she's on stage too, because they'll kind of fly around or hop around.
And the projectiles are infinite, but they are recharge.
correct.
Kind of, yeah.
Yep. So it's we're trying to find ways that each character has a little bit of a unique edge to them, and that was one that I think we felt was kind of good. So, Hitan is planned for inclusion in our beta prime release.
Mm-hmm.
So by that time, we should have her up and running in that manner.
Yeah, she's technically playable now, but without the birds. So
yeah, the standard bird projectiles are what's still present. So it's a little different. So.
The good thing is, that type of setup in general is not terribly hard. Flocking is interesting because it's essentially three things. The birds want to be near each other, they don't want to run into each other, and they generally go the same direction. But it's how you balance those values to make it look natural. And then we'll add in other states of like them maybe landing on her or the ground or something. So, yep, it'll be fun.
I forget, did you also want to do something with Kenta rock kind of projectiles?
Well, he's got his rock toss and spire
Spire.
moves. I know we revised his victory move to include. We haven't gotten that in the build yet, but we've drawn up that revised victory for him, where he kind of summons one of the rocks in. So, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if that would become like too spammable. Find a way to limit that.
There's still kind of a time limit on it.
Yeah.
But there's ways we can try to balance that.
Yeah, it's a trade-off, because that move, while you can do it repeatedly, it's a very long move, and there's a long period of susceptibility to it. So it's kind of a bit of a trade-off.
Yeah.
And there's things like when the rock lands, it essentially stops doing damage. So you can kind of walk through it at that. So there's some balance there.
Could even do something where, like, if you do it too many times, consecutively, the fifth one he'll pick it up and then it'll just fall on
him.
Or get stuck and he has to keep trying.
Yeah, we have a lot of interesting, unique moves to the characters in this game. I think Yuraku is probably the most dynamic, but Shinrao is pretty close too.
Yeah.
Yuraku's got all sorts of interesting things. She's got a move where she pulls down a hot water stream from the top of the stage. Yeah. She's got a move where she kind of whimpers, and if you hit her in that period of time, she has the opportunity to regain some health. And I think we might do regain health at the cost of charge up, so a conversion thing. We'll have to play with the balance on that a little bit.
Yep.
She's got the one where she rolls back and kicks up a folding screen that shoots darts briefly. All sorts of crazy stuff. So
her special is going to be weird too.
Yeah,
we got to work that out.
Yeah. So some exciting things once we get everything up and running for this character.
Yes.
So, yeah.
A lot of these characters I drew based off some of my friends, and of those friends like to cosplay, so
Nice.
yeah. So a lot of these characters are really personal. It's like, yeah, this is that person.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Well, if we ever get enough money to hire them. But... Awesome.
Did you want to touch on any other art-related items before we move on, or?
Just if people want to see more of my stuff, we have a website.
Yep.
My name, jascarpenter.com. And you can see my really silly art. First one is going to be, first panel is going to be for paintings. Second panel is going to be specifically animation. And that's like my favorite one.
Mm-hmm.
Next one is the illustration. And that's where you'll see like illustration, but also my comic stuff. So, and the last one is the game design. Those Konsui Fire stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, depending on what you want, I have a lot of stuff for everybody.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I think next up in our list, so we mentioned beta preview. That's our next major release. So just to kind of recap what's going to be included in that build as we're working toward it. The stage soundtracks, as we've said, that's kind of the main inclusion from the soundtrack. So all 8 of the core stages will have their gameplay soundtrack included. We also have our second round of updates to the AI. We're kind of taking this secondary approach to the AI from our first version that we implemented a little while back. And obviously we have some adjustments that we want to make as we go. So
Sure.
The next round of those will be included. As mentioned, Atami and Shinrao will be added to the roster as playable characters. And we're a couple weeks out from the beta preview currently. So just keep an eye out for our future streams, and we'll have more information on our progress as we go.
Yep.
So another big thing that's kind of been an ongoing effort through our beta period is our voice acting. So we've kind of mentioned it lightly before, but all the characters are going to feature in-game voices. And we are doing an open casting call for people to try out to do voice acting for the characters for the game. Up until now, we've been kind of working on assembling the final scripts and getting the applications together, but as of this stream, our application is now complete. So we're going to be sharing that on our social media outlets, on the website, in the coming days. But generally, the application outlines each of the characters in good detail, has a couple sample phrases in there, and some areas to fill out with your contact information. So we'd like to open it up to submissions. If you're interested, please try out. Basically, just if you have some recording equipment, record a couple characters, maybe some different variations on those characters, using the sample phrases that are included in the application, and fill out your information. And those submissions can be emailed to our submission inbox. I think it's submit@circeanstudios.com. We're accepting submissions on this first round of applications through to September 15th. So our deadline is September 15th. In a future stream, after we receive the submissions, we're going to be going through our entries and selecting voice artists for each character, and in a future stream, we will be announcing our selections. So, stay tuned for the streaming schedule. Again, please submit your entries and let your friends know. We want to get as many entries as we can to select from. So, looking forward to that, and we'll have a copy of the application and that info kind of reiterated through our social channels in the coming days.
Yeah.
So,
and I guess depending on your location, we'll probably set up to do a lot of the recording here if you're able to come locally. Otherwise, if you have the right equipment and you can do high enough quality, we can probably do it remotely as well.
Yeah, and based on our experience, we expect most of these recording sessions to take an hour or two. I think we said in the application 1 to 3 just to be on the safe side. There's been times where it takes less than an hour, so really it's not too much of your time.
Yeah, by fully voiced, we don't mean you're not going to be doing hours of dialogue.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's just for our core gameplay. We kind of made that call based on the kind of experience that we want to bring, and I think that'll be the right fit for what we're doing. So that's pretty much it for today's agenda. But we did want to touch on our next stream. So if you recall, for those who have been keeping up with our streams, a little while back we did a Gundam build stream. It was a lot of fun. We had a couple people join us on the stream with some interesting conversation and questions. And we're going to be doing another one. So our next stream will be a Gundam build stream, and we'll probably touch on a few updates for the game, but the focus is going to be on building some more Gundams. So in my case, finishing mine, because I think I only have the head and the torso maybe on mine complete.
I think I'm about as far, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And I think we have to get Logan a new model to work on.
He has at least one that I gave him last time.
Oh, okay.
So
but he's starting a fresh one, right?
I think so,
He completed his last one, I think, on the last stream.
I think Ellen might be joining us. I can't remember. Yes, she is. She gave a thumbs up.
Awesome.
We're good.
So our second Gundam build stream, that's going to be next weekend on Saturday, same time, same place, 2 o'clock Central. And we'll probably take a couple hours to work on that, just hang out, and
should be fun.
Give that a go.
Nice and laid back.
Yep. All right, well, that's pretty much all we have for today, guys. As always, if you have any questions or comments or thoughts on the game, please send them to our social media channels. We'll answer them in future streams and touch on those, even if there's just general conversation topics unrelated to the game that you're kind of curious to pick our brain about. Shoot them our way.
Yeah, we have lots of ways. We have Twitter. We have email if you even need to.
Our Twitch channel, our Facebook group. So there, check out our website. We have most of our social links at the footer of the page.
Yep.
And with that, I think we're good to go. So thank you guys for joining us. Thanks for taking the time to watch us. We'll see you in the next stream. Bye, guys.
Bye.